Okay, it is 10 o'clock, April 10th. I'm calling to order the meeting, the advisory committee, the Marine and Environmental Resource Task Force for the town of Fort Myers Beach. I ask everyone to please rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please have a seat. And with that, I will give a roll to establish the quorum. Jennifer Rust.
Here.
Rob Howell.
Here.
Leo Sand.
Here.
Ed Rude.
Here.
Sharon Hagstrom.
Here.
Bill Altough. Here. And Dave Nussbaum is here. We have a full committee today. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda we have for today. And in looking at it, Chad, did we have the dune plantings as part of what we voted on last? I could make a motion to approve the addition.
Or you could just approve it as printed.
Or I'd make a motion that we approve the agenda as printed.
I'll second it.
Okay? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Having that done, we have two previous meeting minutes, and I would like a motion to approve both the AA MERTF joint meeting from February 2025
So move.
and the MERTF March 2025 meeting.
So move.
Okay, Leo Clay has moved. I will second that for approval. Is there discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from both meetings as written, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Leo. Okay. Moving right down, public comment. We have people in the audience, so if anyone would like to make a public comment, now is your time. You have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, my name is Michael Thornton, 21541 Madeira Road. I submitted a letter last month because I was not able to attend, just talking about the importance of canal dredging, and just wanted to express our association's support for the work that's going on. I understand there's an attempt to try to get some federal funding to help with permitting and possibly dredging, and I just want to stay in tune with what's happening with that.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
You bet?
Just as a comment, that is on an agenda item today,
Yes.
so we will get to that on the agenda. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I will close public comment. Thank you very much. Current items, okay. Item number 1, we kind of grouped 3 items into code compliance because we all had discussions on it and they kind of fell under the code compliant purview. So, first of all, Jennifer, Vice Chairman Rusk had asked to comment on the turtle season as May is coming up, and this is your time for to make your comments on it, and then we're gonna talk about code compliance.
Sure. So sea turtle nesting season starts May 1st and goes until October, the end of October. And we just need to make sure that our lights are turned off, no flashlights on the beach, and that everyone that if you are on the beach and you are looking up on inward, landward, and you see any sort of lighting coming from a window or a porch, I ask the community to go out there, take a look, keep an eye on your property, make sure that all your lights are turned off and your drapes are shut during the nighttime, so our sea turtles can successfully come on and nest, and that the hatchlings can successfully get to the water during hatching season.
That's from 9 o'clock on, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
9 p.m.
Jennifer, if we wanted more of these stickers, where would we get them from?
So you can request them from me, and you can hand them out to all your condo associations. It might take me like a week or two to get enough of them, but or you can contact the Sea Turtle Conservancy, but I can get them for you.
All right, thank you.
They're
You're
great. I use them in the resort. They're clear window clings. They're really neat, nice reminder.
And that way people don't run into the sunglass doors.
Right.
Right,
And it's a reminder.
okay.
And then you also, I noticed, we've got to, and pick up your garbage. Don't leave tents and umbrellas out and garbage and our beaches in the past couple weeks were pretty filthy, and I did happen to see our town staff out there immediately picking up. They did an amazing job on keeping our beaches clean, along with, of course, our volunteers. But the town was, I had seen on many occasions where big groups of kids had left huge amounts of garbage, even coolers, chairs, just got up and left everything. And the town was on top of it, picking it all up. Now, I would suggest never leaving the beach area and leaving a bunch of garbage on the beach or things that you don't want to lose, because if you walk away with a lot of garbage, empty cans and empty water bottles and things just strewed all over the place, the town will think that it has been abandoned. We can't have that garbage. So just make sure that you pick up after yourself. We have garbage cans at every beach entrance. So, yeah, that would be a nice thing to do.
Also fill in holes.
Fill in
I was
holes,
going to
yeah.
mention that.
Fill in holes.
One of the biggest issues we have, at least on the 6,000 section and going south, are the people that love to create sandcastles with moats and dig down as far as they can to get the water in.
Yeah.
Mr.
And
Chair,
that's great, but they have to fill it back up again.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to intercede here, but we've got Tom Yazzo from Code Compliance here. He's in another meeting. If we could just maybe squeeze him in, he's got about 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I apologize. I have stuff that we're working on with FEMA. and-
Please.
And I'm trying to get some stuff to you out for our deadline.
The microphone is yours.
Good morning, Thomas Yazzo, Emergency Operations Director, Fort Myers Beach. I'm here to help and answer any questions that I have the ability to do that for code, permitting, whatever else you guys need at this point. If I can't answer that question, then I will definitely write down that, and we'll try to work on getting answers back. I will get them back to Chad as best, or try to answer you back as best as I can, okay? I'll get
Okay.
it for you.
I have a quick question for
Sure.
you. When you're coming onto the island, you turn right going towards Bowditch. Some of the street lights, they don't look to be turtle friendly. They look just like regular white lights.
So that's gonna be part of the process,
Okay.
and that's the lighting thing, and I think Chad had a better grip on some of that stuff,
Okay.
but, Director Hoagie's working on that with our new lighting project.
There is also I think it's a sheriff booth or something blinking bright blue lights there at the park. It's something with bright blue lights at the park right there by the old pier.
Oh, that's gonna be probably their tower stack
Yeah.
for cameras.
Yeah.
They have to have certain lighting on them,
Okay.
all right, for safety issues, so,
Just things
that's
I've
not some,
noticed.
yeah, no, I get it, and some of that stuff can't be modified, that we can work on with the sheriff's department on some try to shield that in some manner, but I'll have to talk to the sheriff's department on that.
Thank you. That's all
Okay.
I've noticed so far.
Quick question, and this was brought up at the last meeting. We had people making comments that there are several trailers that are still on the island that are, it appeared to be, and this is anecdotal conversations, appeared to be discharging into the storm sewer. What do you suggest if someone sees that as far as reporting it to
All right,
code.
so just to be clear, they're discharging their waste from the trailer into the storm drain?
Yes,
Okay, it's not pool water that's been diffused and abridged in some manner for debris, right? It's waste.
correct.
So if you do see that in any manner, please make sure you contact code. We do take that seriously. If someone's, we've had issues with it, we've issued NOVs. We've also shut down people's trailer space. We've had their permits revoked for having that even on the property in any manner. They have to have their waste, has to be disposed of properly in an environmentally sound space where they go into a sewer outlet that's designed for that. So if you do see that, please contact us right away and we will deal with that,
Okay, thank you.
of course.
Any other thing that we wanted to discuss?
Do you know when the pipe will be removed from the beach?
May 31st.
May 31st.
I found that out this morning, actually. It was a great relief in some respect. But they're doing an amazing job out there, and I give those guys all the credit in the world. They've really accommodated a lot. Their staff out there, including with Chad, he's been out there and he's been on them about their speeds. They have escort vehicles when they need them, and anytime we've had to stop them for any reason, they're always compliant, and they've done everything they can to try to be good neighbors in this process.
I do have two.
Are you the person to contact if there's large palm fronds that are blocking the sidewalks or the streets?
That
or
would be
things?
Public
Public
Works.
Public Works.
With what kind of vehicles are allowed on the beach right now?
So vehicles that we have to be approved. They have to have certain tire with pressure. That goes through Chad's purview a little bit more as what's acceptable. But right now you'll see town vehicles that are out there, and they're usually side by sides, right? Any of the vehicles that are on there for the reclamation space for the beach, they've all been approved through environmental. So if you see them out there, and if they don't have some type of signage in the front windshield or to the side window, then they're not supposed to be out there, or someone would call us, please call the Rangers. We make a stop, and we've issued a ton of summons for people who think it's a side street to get past the traffic.
What about e-bikes and those hoverboards and things like that?
So anything that's assisted, motorized assisted, that has an electronic means in it in any manner, that be that of battery or gasoline, they're still not allowed on the beach.
Okay.
All right, they're working through council right now on some stuff for sidewalks, but right now that is still not allowed on the beach. And for a lot of reasons, we all know that people don't tend to lay down on the sidewalk. It's not Manhattan. They don't lay down and sleep on the sidewalk here. So, but on the beach they do. So that was part of consideration with talks that we are still not allowing that on the beach.
How
And-
fast are the approved vehicles supposed to go? I mean, is there a slow speed for these vehicles?
So it's still, according to FWC and the instruction that we all have to go through. Chad sends it out to everybody on a regular basis that we have to go through this training. It's 8 miles per hour at max. 6? Is it 6? It's 6 miles an hour.
For all beach vehicles that are
For
approved.
any vehicle traveling on that beach, yes, it's supposed to be 6. And that becomes more, enforcement's another creature, let's be very honest. I'm not gonna be able to run radar out there, especially for bikes and all the other stuff. That would be LCSO, and you're talking about a mass issue. To run radar, you have to have a certain mass to be able to check somebody's speed and stuff. And that's something it's a bit of an enforcement issue, but most people that I've seen they've been playing nice with this, to be very honest
So
with
town
you.
staff has been trained
They've all
on-
been trained,
Okay.
yes, yep.
So nothing over 6 miles per hour?
Yes.
Okay.
So when there is a dog off leash, bike or e-bike of some kind on the, what's the best, quickest way to get you guys
Call
out
the
there?
5888 number, and that's our baseline, okay? You call into that, and that'll go through Rangers. So we have we call it Central Base, which is our dispatch base for us. You'll call in, this is what I see. All I ask is everybody to be very clear. Don't just say, I saw him on the beach and it's by Island Pines Way, right? You have to give us a good description of what you're seeing. You have to give us a good location of what you're seeing or where it's at. So then we can dispatch a ranger to that space, or if needed, we can contact LCSO and they'll get somebody as well.
I saw the sheriff's department out there, and I saw them many times stopping people with loose dogs, and I thought that was fantastic.
We do the same, yep.
Will the sheriffs be out there year round? I've been seeing, or was it just during spring break in a certain area?
No, there's a regular patrol that's out here. We're a third precinct for LCSO. Commander Lawler is committed to making the beach safe, and he does put staff out here. Can we have side-by-sides out here all the time? No. It's a big county, and they have other stuff they have to hit too. But every time they can, they do have their units out there, and they're diligent, just like our rangers.
There's still RVs parked on single-family lots. When do those have to be off?
And that comes back to a council question.
End of September.
End of September is where I think that is gonna be the deadline for that space.
And they can't be put back on, is that right?
We're still working through that, but as it is of right now, it's the end of September, unless there's significant, they're showing progress on rebuilding.
All right, thank you.
That brings me to a decision with that was just made with the park, the food truck park that was gonna be, and they're gonna have trailers there. Are they gonna have to move them in September as well?
I think those are scheduled to leave every day, I believe.
Oh, every day.
They go and come on a daily basis. I could be wrong about that. It was a long meeting, 2 long meetings, actually.
Missed it, sorry.
That's all right.
Okay,
So what you're talking about with trailers on private property was a special exception. It was basically a permit that was given for a temporary permit space. Temporary permit is different than a property that now has gone through LPA and will be before town council and such,
Commercial.
okay?
Oh, okay.
They might not have to leave daily, but they do have to leave within a certain amount of time
Before a storm.
before a storm.
Okay.
okay.
Do you have extra patrols down at the CWA on the south? That's been posted now, I understand.
So I do have rangers who will hit that space, but I promote my rangers, and I've also talked to Commander Lawler in some respect about how we're gonna have staffing down that space. We are very leery, just because there are eggs in the sand now, and they're not easy to see. So to my mind, without, environmental being there or doing, I would prefer them to get out of their buggy and do a walk every once in a while, so they are in that space. We do respond to calls down there though, just so you know.
Yeah, because I still see dogs everywhere.
I know, and we do hit it up, and we do hit that space for the dogs, and, the pushback always is, I live here, I've been here for 1,000,000 years, and, I'm the king of this island, and I'm gonna put whatever I want, let my
No,
dog
I'm
run
the king of
loose
the
and
island.
dig. Yes, and he's gonna go dig holes in the dunes, and I'm not gonna clean up his waste, and if he chases a bird, I don't care. So, that's what you're dealing with, and that's an education part. Hopefully that's something that we're putting out more and more, right? To let people know that the dogs, when they start bothering these birds, it does affect their habitat. So we do try to educate when we're out there, and Chad's been an amazing help with that, giving us the right resources to educate those people. So yes, we're moving forward with that as much as
Are
possible.
your rangers allowed to ticket if they?
We are. We can write tickets. Remember something though, we are quasi law enforcement. So we do not have arrest powers. We cannot do a forcible stop. We can stop and have conversation with people. If it becomes too contentious, then we call LCSO. LCSO is very good in the response. They respond with a deputy, and they have stop powers. So what we do then is we do stop, we ID, and we do issue summons. For the most part, even when people get contentious with us, we found that after a couple minutes of talking to them, they throw the dog on the leash. We can't be everywhere, but we do our best. And if you do see that, please call, because we take a case report on all these things. We're monitoring where the case reports are, and that's gonna start going to LCSO as a case that we handle on a regular basis, either timeframes, and it kinda lets us track it.
How much is a ticket?
It depends. They can be up to $250, and it's gonna depend on how egregious and repeat violations.
Okay,
What's that number again?
239-463-5888.
Thank you.
And do remember, we're not 24/7, so we have people on that phone usually to about 4:30, 5 o'clock during the week, and usually 5:30 to 6 on the weekends. And it'll be a ranger asking or answering on the weekend. Just tell them what you need. He'll get somebody dispatched.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
You're welcome.
thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you, everyone. Be well, be safe.
Thank you, Tom. Just to follow up briefly, Jennifer, you were talking about LCSO. They do have a tendency to staff up during spring break and holidays.
Okay.
one of the things that I think we can do as an advisory committee to the town council is going to them and taking just a brief minute to remind the residents of the shorebird nesting on the south end and the importance that they do keep their animals on a leash and protect the fledgling birds and the nests down there, because we are very unique in the state of Florida. We're the only place that has 4 endangered shorebird species nesting on the south end of the island, and which represents a very large population of the shorebirds in Florida, so.
Well said. I think, I feel like a lot of the island right now, not a lot, I don't want to generalize, but some of the island has some contention around the shorebirds and that whole situation. And that's the number one reason for the dogs on the leash. But what I have found, especially with talking with people about that, is how it's not about your dog. It's about how your dog might go up to an aggressive dog that could be on a leash. It's that you don't have control over that dog in any way, and you're putting your own dog in danger. When you kind of put it back on them, it really, because you look up how many times people have had dogs off leash that go up to another dog that is controlled and contained on a leash, and that other dog on the leash will attack that littler one because it feels like you're coming into its space, it's defending the owner. I usually get some like a little light bulb almost goes off where it's like, you know, because you come at them, oh, please leave the dog on the leash about the birds or the dunes or the ecosystem. However important that is, the person already knows the rules. They're already choosing to break the rules. But when you kind of put it on them to say it's for your dog's protection because this has happened and it can happen again, it seems to really hit home then. So not you know, just another, you know,
Right.
tool in the toolbox there
That's
for
a
when you
good
have
point,
those.
because there's a local veterinarian office where I was actually going and picking up crow birds and dropping animals off for crow. And that veterinarian who owns the practice actually said during season, many times they have to put down dogs that run out onto Estero Boulevard that were loose, that actually get ran over or hit, or by, especially lately, by the motorized bicycles, the e-bikes, because they can go up to 30 miles an hour and they're on sidewalks, and you have a little dog go running off at the beach onto a sidewalk.
Yeah.
They're not gonna see it, they're gonna hit, you know. That's also, you know, something I am concerned with the sidewalks and allowing e-bikes, is you've got a lot of little kids too
'Cause
on the sidewalk.
I feel like the kings of the island, you know,
Alex and me?
they have been here for, you know, they've said they've been here for years, then they know the law, they're just choosing to break it. So when you put it on them, it's for your protection. And it's the truth. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not manipulated, it's the truth of what it is. You
But
know?
again, they can be contentious, and their dog
Either
can do
way,
no wrong, and, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Next, under current items was canal and canal dredging. And I had a conversation with Chad after our meeting, excuse me, where we were looking at the problem of identifying exactly who the owners were on the particular canals and who had the responsibility for removing the excess sand in the canals to make them operable for boats. And Chad, do you want to step in on this?
Sure. So Chad Schutz, town staff, for the record. So we have 30 canals. Some of those canals have fingers on them. Some of those canals are have private submerged land owners that are still technically in the right of way, as in their surface waters of the state, but they own the bottom. Some of those owners are private individuals, some of those owners are HOAs, so it's a complicated picture in terms of who's actually responsible for dredging those canals to restore navigation. That's something that's going to take some time to sort out. if the HOA is up and functioning and they own it, I think that that'll probably be the easier ones, such as like Fairview Isles, or if we get something that says, hey, our HOA is no longer operating, maybe that clears it up. That's gonna be discussions with the lawyer, but, you know, in determining who is the maintenance entity for those canals, we're gonna have some research to be done.
At the last Anchorage committee, our liaison Curtis Ludwig had said that the town had been looking into getting some grants or some FEMA money to do the dredging, but they weren't very successful.
Right.
So that it may have to fall back onto the adjacent property owners of the canals to actually pay for the dredging. Is that correct, or?
So one funding mechanism that has been used in the past with the town is a
Special assessment.
basically setting up a taxing district that was set up for Laguna Channel that is on the Laguna Shores is the neighborhood. I call it Laguna Channel is the channel that services Marina Towers, those houses along Estrelita, as well as all inside Buccaneer Lagoon. All of those properties have the benefit of accessing the Gulf through that channel, which right now is filled with about 6,000 cubic yards. It's been dredged in the past. It has been maintained, but it was already full before Ian. Therefore, you know, FEMA isn't going to pay for it because the pre-storm state was full. You know, there's no returning to pre-storm state per se. So that funding mechanism looked at all the properties, all the waterfront properties, assigned them a benefiting unit, and then basically divided the cost of the project, and it's paid for like that on your tax bill. That's a process that you go through Lee County commissioners to get it on the tax bill. It's a process. It's something that would need to be started relatively soon if it's going to be done. And if we wanted to duplicate that island-wide, questions become, are we doing an island-wide municipal, municipal tax benefiting unit, I don't know, there's so many acronyms. Anyway, if we did that taxing district island-wide, then are we doing an island-wide project? Josh, if you can go down to page 4-9, I believe. Okay. So, yeah, this is the one that I wanted. So we have these graphics that show kind of some coloring to demonstrate where things need to be dredged in hot pink, and going down to the blues, and then the light green where it is already at -5 mean low water or greater depth. Just to educate everybody, so in general, whenever you're getting dredge projects permitted, everything's relative to negative mean low water, which is basically an elevation, just like mean high water is an elevation. So everything's relative to that mean low water, because that's, in general, you want to have, that's, you know, at low tide, you still want to have enough clearance. So -5 mean low water is what the town is going to be seeking for all canals. If there's any canals that can justify deeper maintenance depth, we will be going after that deeper maintenance depth, which you can see on the deeper ones. So here we see 1, 2, and 3.
And what's that area we're looking at, Chad?
This is north of Estero. So Josh, if we can keep going down. One more. So just if you can go down slowly, Josh, just every 5 seconds or so, we can just take a look. So we see here, it's in general, you see the ends of the canals are fairly shallow, relatively shallow, and then on some of the mouths of the canals, you'll see some sedimentation as well. So we have some numbers that FEMA community assistance folks did for us in terms of they did a stormwater project our canals are part of the stormwater conveyance system, so we wanted to see what that system looked like, and
I have a
Some-
quick question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
So, it says, let's see, conceptual dredge, depth table, is that what it is now, or is the maintenance depth that is needed for maintenance, is that
this
on
is
there?
existing conditions,
Existing,
based
what is a
on-
maintenance depth?
-5 mean low water or deeper depending on the canal.
Okay.
So, yep, we can keep going down, Josh. So again, so like on that canal up top, you can see a bit of pink right there where it's, these are the getting towards the bird streets down south. Over there is a challenge because we'll also need to dredge, getting permitting for the canals, the man-made canals is relatively easy. It's not considered state submerged lands, whereas once we get out into the bay, those are submerged state lands where the permitting is a little bit more complicated and you have to deal with severance fees for dredge spoils, etc. So getting access to that channel outside of there is going to be, theoretically should be part of that project, so not only can boats navigate their canal, but they can also get to the navigable channel. Excuse me. And you can see down south, these canals are relatively deep. These are some candidates for those deeper maintenance configurations, where you have canals that were likely dug deeper to begin with, to support sailboats, etc. So, they estimated to get all the canals to -5 mean low water, around 57,000 cubic yards. In talking to dredgers, you're looking at anywhere from $70 to $100 a cubic yard. We're hoping whenever we do go through this project relatively soon and take advantage of all the staging lots that we do have, for handling the material. Having staging lots close to where you're dredging at makes it easier, it makes it cheaper. And then what are we doing with the dredge spoils? It's probably, I don't know if we can take 57,000 cubic yards of material here on this island. Plus you'd have environmental concerns with the contents of those dredge spoils, so that's likely going to be shipped to the landfill, or if we can find a beneficial use, hopefully we can find a beneficial use such as streets or something that needs material, to use that's closer by and reduce that trucking cost, which is the bulk of the cost whenever you're doing dredging. But $70 to $100, if you're looking, let's just say it's $100 for round figure sake, that's a $5.7 million project just to get it to the -5. And if we wanted to get all of them, which is not what I'm suggesting, but if we wanted to get all of them to mean low water, that'd be about 144,000 cubic yards.
Or above twice.
So, and getting back to Jen's question with the funding, are we doing an island-wide assessment, or would we look at each canal separately, or maybe each section of the island separately, where we could do, north of Estero Island dredge project, assess that north of Estero Island, benefiting properties, look at the mid, look at around the bird streets, etc., look at Buccaneer Lagoon, and that way you don't have a property owner on the north end saying, hey, I paid my taxes, you're over there on the south end, and you haven't even dredged me and I can't get out, and generating that. So it would be more work to get a little bit more fine-tuned, but it may be worth it, in terms of you're putting your money into your benefit a little bit closer to home.
So when you say we, are you talking about island-wide, meaning even people would be paying taxes that didn't live on canals, or is it just the property owners that live on
Yeah,
them?
the benefiting properties
Okay.
would be the waterfront properties that enjoy access.
You weren't here last month, and I believe it was this gentleman who spoke at public comment that was here as well. he had some pictures of the canal that I believe he shared of his canal. And I had noticed, because I do my walks, my turtle walks in that area, and I noticed that there's no berms there, so I'm not sure if those property owners approved or gave you permission to put the emergency berms, or, you know, our dunes there. So if there's no dunes and no berms on the beachside property, and their sand is constantly being pushed up into the same canal every time we have a storm, doesn't that present a problem for the canal?
Yeah, overwash, I mean, we definitely have some canals that were impacted by overwash, and that is, you know, putting the dune vegetation on there to stabilize wherever we can, is the goal. And we're gonna talk about that on the next item.
Yep. So, going forward, Chad, if this committee is recommending to the town, where do you feel would be our best recommendation to go in front of council?
So funding is tough. It was tough before the current administration, and the cost cutting that's happening. I think it's gonna be even tougher going forward, looking for federal and state funding. If the waterfront properties would like their canals to be dredged, I think there's a conversation to be had of, do we want to do a taxing district to dredge those canals? You know, I can get these numbers published, and it's just a mathematical exercise to say, hey, we got, you know, 20 houses and there's 500 cubic yards that need to be dredged, and it's kind of like how we did on the beach project, where we have different segments, and then we can also, you know, create line items for each segment and divvy out the cost of the project accordingly, including the mobilization, the demob, et cetera. And you know, and then again, is it a island-wide taxing district, or is it a canal-by-canal taxing district, or somewhere in between? But I don't see us getting funding unless we do it ourselves.
Okay.
It's
When you say do it ourselves, you mean
create a taxing
island-wide,
district.
or create an island-wide taxing district, or?
Well, create a taxing district, be it island-wide or canal by canal, or somewhere in between, that
Okay.
makes sense for doing dredging projects in phases.
So if we did it canal by canal, we would be eligible for some funding grants from somebody.
No, so the taxing, well, I'm not saying, you know, we could be eligible either way. The taxing district is a means of, you know, it's put on, I think it's put on a ballot and it gets voted on, and do you want this? So we need to have political buy-in before we do something like this. But if canal front owners want things to be dredged, the question to them is, do we want to pay for it, or do we want to just keep trying to go get funding from off island, so to speak?
I get it, okay.
Because my understanding is that the town, that FEMA and grants are not available right now.
It's not that it's not available. We don't qualify for FEMA funding for this, because we had, the only channel that we had maintained was the Laguna channel.
Mm-hmm.
It was filled in before the storm. We were about to dredge it. It's still filled in with 6,000 cubic yards.
Has the town looked into grants?
Absolutely.
And what's been the,
We're still not funded.
okay.
So Chad, I have several questions.
Yes,
So
sir.
bear with me. You said it could be on a ballot. Does that mean you have to be a resident of the island to vote? So a property owner that's gonna get assessed that doesn't live here would get assessed
I'm
without
not
a
sure of the
vote?
mechanics of the benefiting taxing unit process.
How about the beachfront, when they did the renourishment of the beach? Was there any taxing to the beachfront properties?
So that, I believe the town's local share was funded in the general fund,
Okay.
which, you know, originally that was about $2 million. So yes, all the residents did pay into the town somehow, some way, and funded that general fund to pay for that $2 million for that. but it was not necessarily a benefiting unit of only the beachfront properties.
So,
And to date, the town has not paid, we only just, the first bill that we paid, where we will be liable for 15% of that, was just this week. So that first, I don't know how many millions of dollars, I think it was like $9 or $10 million was paid for by the state.
So how many miles or feet of canals do we have? And is that the 1,444 cubic yards, does that include getting out to the channel, or is that just the canals themselves?
Just the canals themselves, as well as, I think, maybe the mouth, extended out a little bit. If you can, whenever you were seeing those, that color coding, you can see it kind of went out a little bit further from the mouth of the canal.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just the canals themselves.
So I have a question for Councilman King then.
Who doesn't take questions on Thursday, by the way?
Pretend it's Friday, because it's the end of the week for you. Has a town looked at benefiting for what the taxes would generate from having canals dredged? Or right now, we've got a lot of single-family lots that are empty, and also damaged homes and so forth. Has the town looked at, along with the county, what the benefit would be to have those lots being sold and built on with open canals that would be able to boat through? I mean, have you looked at that, in other words? Right now, if you go look at, I saw some of the pictures, and you go look at some of the canals, they're full of sand, and they're not gonna sell that lot without having some way of having that dredged. So, from a town's perspective, to me, it looks like, the people, I live on the beach, so I get this, but we get benefits, and the beach is a public benefit for everybody, so I get that. The canals also are public benefit to a certain extent. Is there any way that you can look at, I like the idea of taxing authority for benefited properties, but I think if you look at, after Hurricane Ian, we saw your property tax and revenue for the town and Lee County go down dramatically, right? Anybody looked at what that has been brought back to and where it could go to if we did something on a, island-wide project and try to get, some of that money captured back through increased property taxes?
Not specifically that I'm aware of, to your point, Leo. The only thing I know of is the assessor, Matt Caldwell, has looked at what happened because of Ian. There were obviously a downturn, and then folks that couldn't live there, so they were given property relief on that, thanks to the legislature. So that has bounced back. It had been to, I think, 50% as of the last fiscal year, and he was projecting that it would increase again in this coming fiscal year, but nothing specifically along those lines that I'm aware of.
You would need like an economist to, do there, if you wanted to quantify, you're talking about quantifying
Yeah.
what a property's worth.
Well, you'd have to look at, if you just look at just simple mathematics and look at how many homes are destroyed, what the lot value is, what the real estate tax is on that today versus having what it was pre-Hurricane Ian, and then looked at saying that lot would sell today for X dollars, and you'd put the homes on the islands are, I remember when you could buy a beachfront property before the storm for $2 to $2.5 million. Those are same lots empty. That was with a house on it, by the way. Today, that same property, no house on it, just a bare lot, is $3 to $3.5 million and going up dramatically. So we're going to see increase of property taxes that's going to come into the town and Lee County. And what I'm asking is, there's any way you could look at taking some of that tax money, general tax money, to help out with this dredging of the canals, because it's a benefit to the property owner, yes, but if you look at how you're going to get everybody to agree to be taxed on that, that's going to take a long process, is it not?
It's a process,
I mean,
but, again, it's the same process that they did for Laguna Channel.
okay.
And, if you have, everybody along the canals that want the property, want the canals to be dredged, and it seems like you have you've met a threshold of 50% or more, then going through the exercise of getting that in front of the Lee County Commissioners does seem feasible.
Well, let me, are you,
I'm finished. Go ahead.
okay, let me bring this back to trying to encapsulate what you said, Chad. If there's multiple owners and we're aware of that, every canal owner will benefit if the canal is dredged. It then becomes that, and the town, per Leo's suggestion, will also benefit in the fact that the property will increase in value per se. To what extent, we have no idea, but obviously if a canal is non-navigable and then you dredge it out and you can bring boats in, there's a perceived value in that that raises the value of the property, which also, you know, shows up in the tax base. So there's kind of a property owner gets a win, the town gets a win. It's something that we, looking at the issues that Chad so clearly marked out on all the canals on the island, is something that has to be done. So now it becomes, in my mind, our recommendation to the town that they determine how they want to pay for this improvement or remedy of storm damage to bring up the values of the property and raise the tax base of the town. Did I say that kind of?
So if I'm going to agree with that, I would like to ask Chad a question. So we are an marine environmental committee. Can you tell me how this benefits our canals being dredged? How does it benefit the marine environment?
It's restoring navigation, you're removing muck, which has water quality issues. You're also improving conveyance for stormwater. Some of our outfalls are sedimented and no longer functioning as well. You know, the canals are, you know, it's tough to argue that the canals are for environmental benefit. Those canals were dug for navigation.
Correct.
So that's the primary purpose of dredging them.
So Dave, you kind of hit where I was going with this topic. So thank you.
Okay,
So I'm originally from Minnesota, and we use what's called a tax increment finance district, a TIF district. I don't know if Florida has that, but it works this way. You have a lot that's worth, let's just say $100,000, and it pays $1,000 of taxes. You build a house on that, and that lot becomes a $2 million house, and it has, let's just say, $20,000 in taxes. The increment between the $1,000 and $20,000 is $19,000. That money, or part of it, would go towards a project like this. It's not costing the existing taxpayers anything. It's promoting development of our island or redevelopment of our island. That's what I was talking about.
And it
in
earmarks it
budget.
specifically for that.
Correct. Now, in Minnesota, we have the county, the city or town, and then there's a school district. And the school district can opt out and say, no, we don't want to put our money towards that, so they can take the county and the town could put their money towards that tax increment district. It would get people an incentive to rebuild quicker, and that's what we want to see, right? I mean, we want to see the island come back to more of its normal charm, and it's never going to be the same. We all recognize that, but to get it back to where it's actually, you know, people want to come back to the island and spend money. The number one business in our community is tourism, and that's what we need to promote. Part of the dredging the channels is boating as well. So I'm just trying to brainstorm is all I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
throw out some ideas.
And I mean, I don't know if you saw the figures with our TDC and the return of, you know, the resorts, and I forget if it was like, we're at like 50 or 60% or whatever.
Yeah.
But even with everything, you know, all the resorts that we've had opened up, to me, it kind of says, you know, there's a lot of houses with bed tax that haven't been rebuilt, and you know, those waterfront properties with a dock and maybe even a boat where you're having that vacation rental makes it a lot more valuable, to your point.
Okay.
So if, I guess my question is, or one more question for you, Chad. How does the, marine environment, is it, I guess by dredging, can it be a marine environmental issue by dredging the canals? Or what is the environmental impacts of dredging the canals?
Well, turbidity is one of the impacts, and the permitting that we would seek with FDEP and Army Corps would have conditions in those permits to mitigate those issues.
Are there hazardous materials in the spoils per se?
I know arsenic is one thing they would require you to test for if you wanted to put it back on a lot. I would need to do a little bit more research. I mean, the answer to your question is probably yes. It depends on what you consider hazardous, but there can be.
Oh, what I consider hazardous.
Okay.
Well, the ones that have filled in since Ian also from the storm, there's still gonna be debris in that sediment.
Yeah.
I would-
Even though you cleaned all the debris
Yeah.
out, the visible debris that's above it.
Right.
You've got 2 or 3 feet of sediment, that's washed in there, and it's gonna be full of all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, me wanting to make use of everything you can, and you say, well, we need this fill, people need this fill, and then that's the first thing you kind of think of. It's like, you're digging, and all of a sudden you realize that this fill is,
It's gonna be full of stuff.
Yep.
No question. I mean, all the small wares and all the stuff that were in people's yards, and it's gonna be full of all this. Anything that sinks, that doesn't float, is gonna be all mixed in it.
yep.
So does anyone would like to put a motion out as far as recommendations to the town council?
Would it be along the lines of the town council develop an economic research plan to see what would be the most economical avenue to fund dredging?
I would,
Bill, you might want to pull your microphone down, so, thank you.
I would add to that we recognize the need to have the canals dredged and cleaned, both from an environmental and economical standpoint. And because of that, we think the town should move to find the most impactful way of getting financing for this, for all of the canals.
Would dredging and cleaning, are those two things that go hand in hand?
They have,
They're different, but they do go hand in hand. I mean, you have cleaning, I'm assuming you're meaning debris, which we're doing right now,
Right,
whereas
that's
dredging is specifically getting the material out to a certain depth to restore navigation.
Material, can you,
Material, muck, sand.
And that's all clamshell dredging, right?
I would want to permit it, both hydraulic dredge and mechanical. Mechanical being, a track hoe to scoop it out. That seems to be, that may be the preferred method for this, but I would still want to give our contractor the option to maybe have like a cutter head to basically vacuum to the depth, and then you could pipe it onto basically a barge that has containers, sealed containers, and take the material to wherever you're going to stage it and dewater it and put it in the trucks.
From an environmental aspect, the rookery there, it's south of the island, or it's in the south end of the island that took a big hit from Ian and all the other storms. Could we use some of the material potentially for rebuilding that rookery?
So by rookery, what are we talking about? We're
I honestly don't know the
birds
name of the
nesting
island.
where?
It's before you get to the very south end. There's a whole bunch of frigate birds that used to go there and pelicans.
So we're talking about like making a spoil island?
Yeah, it would be a spoil island. It was already there, but it took a big hit, and it's like not even half what it was.
I mean, I don't think the town actually has a say on the rookeries.
Well, I understand
Yeah.
that, but
So
for
that's-
something to do with some of that, it might be on a positive note for the environment of what we could do with some
Right.
of these.
Yeah, I mean, so the canal material itself, it's not gonna be beach compatible. That's why I was asking if the beach, but building a spoil island, I would need to explore that with regulatory agencies. You know, I've definitely, thought about, you know, the Laguna Channel, has, you know, it looks like it's beach compatible, and looking at it, maybe not all of it, but definitely some of it, and especially if you did a near shore placement where you can have a higher silt content. And maybe we could recreate Little Estero Island out there and have that, you know, a place for the birds to go to offshore.
Yeah.
Whether that's feasible from a regulatory standpoint, I'm not sure.
Okay. Just a thought.
Yep.
Okay, you wanna try it again, Bill?
Sorry.
Big mouth. The motion would be for the MERF to recommend the town council seek the most economical avenue to fund dredging. Try and dummy this down,
Yep,
because this is a can of worms.
Right.
That every time you open your mouth, you've got another booklet that's
Right,
gonna
I
come
know.
in. So I think if we focus on something very broad, like the town council should explore the funding avenues.
Right, so whenever you say economical, what are you meaning by that? Like, the least cost to the town? Or what do we mean? What are we
Everything's coming
saying?
down to cost.
prudent, let's use prudent.
I think you could throw in, using avenue, or, using, vehicles of like tax increment financing if it's available in Florida, things like that.
It is available in Florida. I think it's also tied, and I'm not sure how tightly, to CRA, which is Community Development Agency, and I know the legislature was putting, for lack of a better term, a kibosh on that with this legislative session, because we had looked at possibly utilizing that for redevelopment on the island, say in Times Square area and things like that, and we were told to get on that very quickly because it looked like by the summer it was going to be gone. I'm not sure if TIF is part of that, and but I know either way you'd have to go through the county to get that taken care of. What I will do, Leo, is the issues you brought up, I will talk to town management about that, and then I will contact the county appraiser to see if there's a way to capture that information.
Okay,
So I'll second Bill's motion, whatever that was, okay? Because I
Can we-
agree with that, but I
Can we
cannot,
articulate that one more time?
yeah,
No. Town council to research, develop funding mechanisms to
Dredge our canals.
Dredge.
dredge the canal.
dredge the, recognizing the importance of the economic
Benefits.
and environmental improvement of the canals that they do it. If they're not working, they're not working. If they're supposed to be a stormwater bypass and they're full of sand, they're not working. So,
all right, so I'll second that. I'd like to have a little discussion on it, if you don't mind.
okay,
Yeah.
discussion.
All right, John, what you need to have is not only the appraiser look at this, but I'm not sure what the town has for tax revenue coming in pre-Hurricane Ian versus what it is today. All right, but if you look at the $14.4 million price tag, if that's truly what it is, that can be paid for in a relatively short period of time using tax increment financing of some sort, and we all recognize that. I don't know what the bond rating for town of Fort Myers Beach, but Lee County could be on that as well, to be able to pass a bond, float a bond, sell bonds to do this, and then recapture the tax increment by people building. You mentioned Times Square, that could be also part of it. It doesn't have to necessarily be benefiting of the canals itself, but, we have redevelopment districts, we have economic impact districts, things like that. There's different districts that you have, and I don't know what Florida has available. But any one of those avenues should be explored. And just because the legislature may change something, it means that we just have our work cut out to go explain and try to lobby them to say, our beach and our island was impacted tremendously. So you look at this, could be something that could be adopted in Sanibel, Captiva, and others up and down the coast that have been impacted. So I think it's worth exploring. That's what I'm asking,
Okay.
so.
Any other discussion before I call the question?
Well, I guess my question is this really so Chad, are you saying because some of these canals, need dredging that we're having water runoff issues with our stills? Is it sills or stills? Sorry. Where the water runoff is?
The outfalls?
Huh?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
What you had said was environmentally to have these canals dredged would benefit our water runoff and I guess maybe
Conveyance?
yeah, conveyance or that maybe some of the sills are clogged where the water runoff
The
can't.
outfalls, yeah, have been silted
Outfalls?
in, yeah, or,
Yes. So
yeah, so, I mean, if you notice, usually our outfalls are at the back of the canals, and that's, you know, usually where you see the shallower areas, next to those outfalls. So if you have sediment that's blocking the outfall, it doesn't work as well
where does the water go then?
into the canals,
It goes into the canals.
yes. That's part of the stormwater conveyance system,
So the benefit of dredging would help
restore conveyance.
restore, okay.
Don't you have wildlife that uses the canals as well?
Oh, yes.
Lots of catfish,
Manatees,
Dolphins, manatees.
dolphins.
dolphins and manatees, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, with that, I will call the question. All those in favor of, Committeeman Altoff's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
I oppose.
Okay,
I'll also oppose.
all right.
And just, if I may, I have lots of friends in canals, and I would love to see that. I just don't think it's a Marine Environmental Resource Task Force, thing to take to council.
Well, we are an advisory committee, and if you look at our statement, we're to ensure the quality of the waters and the economic viability of those who make a living off the waters. And, you know, if there are numerous people, I know several of them, that rent on the canals. We've had people up here that have complained to us or made the statement, our canals are full of sand, we can't put a boat in there. If you're trying to rent a place and you have a canal that doesn't work, suddenly you're not getting your full value of your rental.
Oh, I totally understand. I'm saying I would love to see all these canals dredged, but I do believe that it should be the property owner's expense.
Well, we did,
And something that the property owners should be filing for permits and things like that. And looking into paying for it. Not, because the taxpayers paid the town staff, or, you know,
Okay.
they
But-
pay, so,
but there's nothing in the motion that says the town is paying for it or not paying for it. All the motion said is to find the most prudent, you know, way of paying for it, which could be either a TIF, it could be a special tax on the canal owners. All we're advising the council to do is, we recognize it's a problem, and you have to, and we're telling you, we believe you need to find a way to fix it. We're not
well, the
giving-
motion passed. I just wanted
Right.
to make a
Okay.
statement, so let's move
Very
on.
good.
Just to clarify something, I respect your opinion and disagreement with this, but if you look at the impact of our water quality from all the, for lack of a better word, crap that went into the canals, during Hurricane Ian, Helene, Milton. There's a lot of stuff that's not environmentally friendly sitting in those canals. And the sooner we get it out, the better it is. And if that means helping, trying to dredge this to make that happen, that's what I'm in favor of doing,
Yeah.
trying to find a solution.
Well, there's opposition to both sides.
Yep.
So,
Okay, very good. Let's move on to item C, dune planting. Chad, you're on.
All right. All right, Mr. Josh. So, we have our dune planting plan. Our coastal engineer and I have put a lot of work into this. If we wanna go to the next page, Josh, we'll see, we have the sterile island. These R monuments are the FDEP, monuments that go down the beach. From the north, they start in 174, and then in the south, 210. We can go ahead and move to the next one, Josh. So, we had 3 dune planting schemes in our dune management plan. The difference in those schemes are the relative percentages of the 4 species of dune plants, being sea oats, bitter panicum grass, railroad vine, and dune daisies. The high profile, number 1, has a relatively high composition of sea oats. Lee County preferred the high composition, I think it's 75% sea oats, and then the remaining 25–30% was dune daisies, railroad vine, and bitter panicum. The low profile dune plantings are, I believe it's 15% sea oats, and then more bitter panicum and dune daisies and railroad vine as well. So based on the feedback from the community to staff, low profile was what the beach property owners preferred. That is going to be the default. Staff is open to, if there are property owners that prefer something different, 1, 2, the number 1 or number 2 scheme, the time to contact us is now. But having said that, we do plan on rolling out additional phases where we can add additional species of plantings in the future. But that low profile is what we're looking at, and I think in terms of in the spirit of the FGCU advice that we got for more species diversity, I think that low profile planting plan does have, the percentages of those 4 species are more spread out rather than the heavy CO, 75% CO number 1 plan. You'll also see some black marks. Josh, if we can kind of just, you can scroll down relatively fast. I don't think we necessarily need to analyze this too much, but as you scroll down, you'll see those black marks. Those are paths, the 10-foot wide path that, based on historical dune paths that existed in the areas prior to Ian, and that's what those historical paths are based on, or that's what those black marks are based on. I've talked yesterday, met with Bill Perry and the condo owners on the north, about a half dozen of them, and we just talked about, hey, we want it here, hey, we want it there, and that is the process. This was laid out, the alignment is basically the berm alignment, and the paths are historical paths. If there's something different that the property owners like, please come and speak with me, and we can definitely discuss it. And just like we did yesterday with those the condo HOAs that we met with yesterday. Having said all that, as you can imagine, if you're laying out miles and miles and miles of dune plantings, the more uniform it is, the easier it will be on staff, the more cost efficient it will be for the town. But staff recognizes some people like it on top of the berm, some people want it on the seaward side of the berm, some people may want it on the landward side of the berm. I'm happy as long as we're getting plants out on the beach. I think it's gonna be a great thing for us. So as we come down to here, a couple more slides and then stop, Josh, once we get to the schematic. So, you know, like I said, Bill Perry, we met with the Dune property owners. He's been instrumental in, you know, from the very start, from getting easements signed to just offering, you know, advice on how he's been managing the beach over the last 3 decades. And this is a schematic you can see below is his so-called comma dune, where instead of having an opening as you do on the top where the water can go straight in, you have a bit more coverage where, you know, if the shore is on the bottom, you know, you really can't see a way in, and the water is going to be a little bit more obstructed from overwashing that berm. That opening would face towards Sanibel, where you have less wave fetch. You know, theoretically, the stronger wave action would happen coming out of the south rather than the north. So that's the direction that opening would be facing on the bottom. It's about 10 feet wide. That's going to be wide enough for if you needed your beach groomer to come in and maintain behind the dune, they can maintain behind it. The dune management plan does say that property owners are allowed up to 25% of their shoreline length to be unvegetated. I'm committed to having that, but I will always give my advice as environmental staff in terms of resilience and protecting your property, maximizing the protection on your property. I'm recommending maximize the vegetation that we're planting out there, and the bottom schematic where you have more coverage and that opening facing to the north rather than straight out to the Gulf will maximize the resilience of your berm to storm surge and wave action. Josh, we can go to the next one. Yeah, thank you. So the first one was the schematic for the high profile, and this one is the low profile. As you can see, we have some sea oats that are 1 gallon and 4 inch. Those are more mature plants. 2 inch is kind of the minimum size. So we're planting more mature plants. FEMA did give us funding as a mitigation. It gave us extra, I think it was like $200,000 on the north end for those more mature plants, and staff has gotten funding from FDIM, which will also help fund more mature plantings on the non-engineered side of the beach that FEMA did not cover in their Category G public assistance.
Can you help me understand a couple things?
Yes, sir. I hope.
Good luck. Help me understand the bottom. If we've already put the berms in place, how do we get that alignment?
So these are plantings. So you can imagine you're on the top of the berm.
Well, but aren't we looking at basically a berm in the bottom one?
Well, the berm is about 30 feet wide,
Yeah.
toe to toe. These plantings are about 10 feet wide. So if you're running,
I'm just specifically talking about how do we get that opening at an angle like that, if it's already been done?
so the angle is with the plants, not necessarily the berm. The berm is straight,
Okay.
and we have our plantings coming from the north and going south, and then you start planting
All right, okay.
along here,
All right.
and it kind of, you know, the first
So the
schematic.
10 feet is in vegetation there,
Yeah, the first.
not the berm opening.
Yes, sir. And that, the first schematic we had was kind of like here, and you can imagine if we kept on doing that, the berm would march out. So that's why this is kind of tying in to the next property, where then again, it'll come across, and so it'll just keep on, you know, with those openings.
Which brings in mind would that bottom figure have a chance to capture more sand then? Then the top figure?
It is more planned, so in theory, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are you asking the committee which way to go?
No, ma'am, I want
Oh.
to make these available to, I want to give property owners options. Like I said, they have the option to, if they have a 100-foot property, that 10-foot wide gap could be 25 feet wide based on the dune management plan. So, you know, this is kind of a best case, and this is what I want to offer to property owners, but I want to make clear on record that staff is willing to, you know, talk to them. This is the default. We need to lay out something that's as uniform as possible to get this project done, but if there are customizations that property owners would like to have, I am all ears and will work with them.
When will planting begin?
We're hoping around July. These, just got this yesterday from our coastal engineer. We have a couple of tweaks to the tech specs to make in the bid table, to make in the invitation to bid, and we hope to have that out ASAP. So that's a 60-day process where 30 days to get the bids, another month to get council approval and get all the notices and bonding and et cetera done. So within 2 months we should hopefully have a contractor, and then we're planting in the summer. Our permit allows for that.
Say hypothetically there was a turtle nest on the berm where they were gonna plant. Obviously you're not gonna mess with it, let the turtles hatch and make their way out. Will they go back then and replant where that nest was, or is it just kind of hopefully it'll fill in with the pre-planted plants? Is there any kind of plan for that?
I haven't thought about, we can possibly do change orders to adjust to that if we need to go back and plant, 60 days after that. If the plantings are, if there's a nest, it's gonna be 60 days before it hatches. This project, I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but in theory, there could be, if they're still out there, that could be an easy fix. If they're not, then a change order should accomplish that.
Okay.
Or, maybe it's just town staff procuring the plants directly and then getting an auger out there and planting that, relatively small section.
Okay.
But there's options. I'm not particularly worried about that.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Chad, I would imagine that you're going to present this to the town council, this planting, or would you like?
We do have it on our website, and I don't know, you want to see this in a town council meeting, or you have enough to look at?
What I can do, Chad?
Whatever you need to make it happen.
Yeah, I'm looking for basically MERTF support
Okay.
in this dune planting plan. I think it's important to have community support with what we're doing, and that's what I'm looking for.
And we wanna reach out, let the residents and property owners know that they can reach out and discuss the options available
Yep.
on the planting, that this is one of the options, or you've listed the options, and,
Right.
make it clear to them that it's not, this is what you have to do.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, we've, yesterday, Bill Perry organized the Northern Estero Island condos, and we went through it with them, felt good about that. We've already had discussions with the 7,000 and 8,000 blocks. All the single-family homes in between are a little bit more difficult, but I've already had single-family homes, they've gotten the word and said, hey, Chad, I want my path here. So that's already happening and will continue to happen, yes, sir. And we'll get with Nicole, that's been posted, and get a public service announcement out to let people know, hey, take a look at it. Contact me if you have any concerns or just want to understand it more.
Okay.
I'm assuming that the gaps in the line,
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wasn't at the meeting that you're talking about for 8300, and I don't understand it at all. I would like to know if the dune planting is out at the water side, at the beach side, or is it closer to the building? And
So it would be on the berm that's out there.
That will be our dune planting
Yes,
on
ma'am.
our berm?
Yes, ma'am.
That doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't. Have you looked at it?
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't. It is not even a foot high. It was so high.
Right.
And it protected us so much during Milton. We had no sand on our whole property or on the road in front of us. None. And now it's gone, and it is. I think Bill Perry took it down at two people on the board's recommendation. I think.
I see the elevation out there. You have to remember that that beach has been brought up. You know, it was scoured out, and then we put sand, you know, tens of thousands of cubic yards
Yeah,
out there. So that beach was brought up to, you know, around 4
okay.
NAVD. So, you know, that berm that looked like the Himalayas whenever there was no sand out on the beach, and then when you bring up the sand around it, it does look relatively low. And that's, you know, if you think about, you know, whenever we put that emergency berm right after Ian, it looked like, you know, it was the only thing on the beach because the rest of the beach was at sea level. But now that the rest of that beach is filled in, you know, it's,
Okay.
nobody's really worried about it like people were worried about the Himalayas coming up in front of their
Okay.
property.
So our berm will be planted with these plantings. the
Yes,
low
ma'am.
Profile planting. It will be planted. Okay, the berm.
That's the intention. And I can talk to your HOA, and if there's any concerns, we can work through those.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Chad,
Thank you.
what is the height of the berm compared to the high water mark of the Gulf?
Right, so, mean high water is about 0.3
Okay.
feet NAVD, and the berm in its original construction was about 6.2 feet
Okay.
across most of the island, more or less. That berm has been overwashed several times. However, where, you know, Aetna, our dredge contractor for rebuilding the beach, was kind enough to rebuild that berm where they could before Helene and Milton. That got overwashed again, but we then made use of the sand debris, screened that sand, and rebuilt the berm where we could again. So that berm has been rebuilt like 2, even 3 times in some areas, but it's no longer, I wouldn't, between Mother Nature and, you know, whenever we were doing the sand debris, it wasn't necessarily an engineered berm where we went out and did it. We had the old alignment and went into that old alignment that we had before.
So what would you guess the berm's gonna be at finished grade, today, when it's finished? Is it gonna be 6, or is it gonna be somewhat less than that?
I would say it would be somewhat less than that in most spots. I mean, Mother Nature has, you know, overwashed it, blown it, etc. And there's some spots where there's no berm right now.
And the intent of the berm is to stop or slow down the water, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and over time, that berm should grow because of drifting sand hitting that grass area, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
How did you come to the conclusion of
I-
the actual plants that were chosen?
It was based on Keith Lackinen's dune management plan that he had back in early 2010, 2011. Sorry, Mr. Root.
Just to add on to that, the berm in our area is probably about a foot lower than it was originally. And, but it's still pretty, I mean, it's still intact and it's still good. The gaps in the vegetation on the maps, are those property owners that have specifically said they don't want any vegetation on their property?
Yes, there are places that did not send their easements, and therefore.
Are there any in the, are there any property owners, single family or condos that have declined the vegetation in the 7,000 and 8,000 block?
No, sir, you've done a great job at getting me a lot of easements and getting those ability
Okay,
to.
I just
to
wanna
plant
make
over
sure
there.
that if there were, I'd reach out to them and explain it to them.
Yeah, we can look at it later, and if there's any issues, we can.
I know a few of the folks in the 6,000 block too, but I don't know if they're around.
We have one guy right here.
We're all sitting here.
Yeah.
This is funded by FEMA still, right? Because of,
The funding is complicated, so FEMA did pay for, they will be paying for the vegetation on the previously engineered beach, which is from Bowditch to Crescent Park.
Okay.
And that's also where they gave us extra money for more mature plants as a form of mitigation to have more established plantings as soon as possible. Fingers crossed we don't get any overwashes. And then on the south end, between the monies that we have from FTEP, our LGFR, local government funding request that we put in every year, that includes the agreement 23 LE1, which is our beach renourishment, funding for our beach renourishment, where FDP pays for like 42%, TDC pays for 43%, and the town pays for 15%, would be how those plantings would be funded, as well as FDIM gave us money, and my understanding is we can use those FDIM monies for plantings as well to complete the beach project. So we've been very fortunate in that regard to get funding to get our beach back again.
Thank you.
Is there a specific location that berm has to be located on somebody's property?
The recommendation from the coastal engineer is have it closer to the structures rather than closer to the Gulf, because the closer it is to the Gulf, the quicker it would erode.
So the property owners that aren't participating, what are you doing to try and get them to participate?
There may be some opportunities. As you know, there's been some properties been bought and sold, so there may be some opportunities with new owners to chase them out. And we, you know, I put in previous announcements to, you know, it's never too late, you know, sign your easement. I did have one single-family property owner. He's come around and wants to sign the easement, so it is happening, and we're open to it.
Is that a property that originally declined the berm?
Correct.
So we can go back and do the berm in that location along with the plantings?
Well, putting the berm back there is a little more complicated because we're in sea turtle season. You know, we're wrapping up beach operations right now, and then we're going to be planting right now. So, you know, if we're planting and we have, if there's no plantings there and we have monies from the state for, you know, Hurricane Helene, Milton recovery like we did for Ian and Nicole, there may be an opportunity if we get the funding to reestablish the berms there, get money for sand and reestablish berms where there's no berms. But once those plantings are done throughout the island, even where there's no berm right now, we're going to lay out those plantings, and that will naturally accrete sand in those plantings and reestablish a berm there. Am I answering your question?
Yes. How many properties, if you can remember offhand, approve the berms and the plantings from Times Square, say, to past Diamond Head?
I'd have to look at the spreadsheet, sorry.
Come on.
It's pretty much on the map though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So should we move a motion to advise town council of our support?
I just have one more quick question. I know we're trying to wrap up, and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
When we were going back through there, I was seeing some of those 10-foot openings really close to like just an edge. I was just trying to understand what the thought process is, not just having people go around that extra, because I feel like an opening and then a little bit of berm and then a big opening where there's not a berm or dune. I'm just wondering, like, isn't that just going to wash it away and like there's no point to it? But if they just not destroy, but like put a berm in there and planted that 10-foot section, and then they can just, you know, if that's a walking path or whatever it may be, just come over that other 10, 20 feet.
I'm not sure I understand the scenario.
Could we go back a couple?
Instead of a
Hey, Joshy, can we go back a couple slides, please?
I'll tell you when. Right there is good. So like, right here would be a good example. I know there's a walking path there, but for lack of a better example, where there's not a walking path where there's grass, there's an opening right there next to a big opening. So, you know, not this specific scenario, because I do see the walking path there, but in some other examples, there wasn't a walking path, it was just open beach, where like there's just that teeny little bit of, you know, soon to be dune there. I just feel like, does that make sense?
So you're
Every
suggesting,
property.
sorry, Mr. Root, go ahead.
Every property that's agreed to the vegetation is gonna have their own opening.
Is that
because-
true? They have to have their own,
Well,
okay, I didn't know
because-
that,
Well,
okay.
because if they didn't, and they walked to where there was a natural opening, they'd be trespassing on other people's properties.
Yeah, okay, and that's what that was gonna be my follow-up, is that considered trespassing when
Yeah.
it's an open beach right in front?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And that's my ignorance, so thank you, seriously.
okay? So Chad was looking for affirmation from the committee that he could take to the town council, so is there a motion to, recommend to the council that we support the plan as presented?
I motion that the plan that Chad has as of now with property owners is exceptional, or, acceptable, and we back it.
Exceptional was good.
Exceptional.
Exceptional is good.
I'll go with
I
that.
second it.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I second it.
Okay, made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. So, Chad, is it possible that we could add more of a variety of sand dune plants?
Absolutely. So my next, I have the ITB to get out. I was trying to combine it and it just was getting too much onto one task, so to speak. Next, I'm going to be putting out a RFP with a big table of not only salt-tolerant dune vegetation, but also Florida-friendly trees, to have basically a go-to for vegetation, and get pricing on those from nurseries around, so that we have a go-to for getting additional plants. And I've included all the dune vegetation that was suggested by the FGCU professor. And what I am envisioning, and we can talk about now or talk about later, is, so we have this initial basic dune management plan, and we need to get that out as soon as possible, and don't complicate it with other things. But I would like a phase 2 where we offer additional dune species, grasses, forbs, flowers, sea grapes, etc., to property owners that want to participate and have additional plantings in their yards. And that's kind of an optional thing. Who wants this? And just put it out there and have additional plantings. And then also, with funding, hopefully I can get funding, add canopy as well in our accesses, as well as if I can get funding on private, trees on private land, being beachfront properties that would like maybe they want a sea grape tree or a sable palm, and restore the canopy. The accesses would be the first go-to for that, and then I know there's been some interest from condos that would like a nice shade tree. And the sea grapes and the sable palms are the go-to for having trees out on the beach. Those would need to be behind the dune, just so they don't get overwashed, and get an anchor, like a root ball anchor, on there to mitigate any hazards that is associated with that. But we're in desperate need of canopy as well.
okay.
Fantastic job, by the way. I'm super excited. I grew up in an area where there was lots of sand dunes, dunes with native plants, and I think it's going to really help with any future storms. So thank you
I
for
hope so.
your work.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I have to go because I have an appointment, but I do vote, I do.
Okay, I'm
go
calling
with
it right now.
Absolutely.
All those in favor, closing discussion, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I also say aye, motion carries unanimously. Chad, you can take that to the council.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Very good, okay.
Exceptional.
So, moving along. Members' items.
I'd like to talk to, I guess, FWC about having a plan of maybe MERTF doing compaction testing out on the beach to make sure that we're all in compliance to compaction. There has been some issues brought up with the beach rakers
Research that.
that they feel as though there is a degree of harassment.
One that he has, like from the eighties or something, but, I need to take a look at that.
Okay.
And I just want to do a little bit of investigation into that. I'll talk to both of those government agencies and then I'll get back to you. But I think the ultimate goal would be, you know, maybe MERTF would, do some random compaction testing out on the beach.
But I understand what you're saying on that. I think we probably need to see a little, information on it before we kind of direct people to go out and do it, such as,
Well, sure, but
Yeah.
let me make my conversations, so I'll get through to the right people to see
right.
what the requirements are.
And I think we as a committee can look at it as soon as we
Exactly.
get the information. Okay.
So, two parts.
Yep.
One, I'll do a little research, and then I'll get back to you.
If I
Sweet.
can help in any way, let me know.
I think, yeah, I think that's a great idea, actually, with the controversy that just continues on and on about, the compaction and the beach raking that's being done. If we had something like that, it would provide a path to just put this to bed and get it behind us.
Agreed.
And it wouldn't be an area of contention going forward. I know there's a lot of people that are tired of hearing about it. And so that would be greatly beneficial, I think.
I'll get back to you.
But just to add,
Okay.
as a part of our FDEP permit, we will be doing compaction tests, after the project.
Now, is that repetitive or just a one-time shot?
I believe it's just a one-time shot, but it may be after each tilling event, which we have to do for the next 3 years.
When you're saying tilling event,
Mm-hmm.
it's your beach rakers tilling events?
No.
No,
Planting.
it'll be our, the town will need to procure tilling. The Aetna, our dredging contractor who's building the beach right now will do it this year, before, May 1st, so this month. There'll be tilling, and then our coastal engineer will do, cone penetrometer,
Do you have that
sampling. The coastal engineer does.
Okay,
Okay.
so maybe we can take advantage of that too.
Yeah, learn how to do it, and I'll definitely be, shadowing them and seeing how it's done.
And find out what they're looking for, more or less.
Yep, it's just basically just a
Okay.
PSI, how far it penetrates.
Mainly for me, I just want to let any property owners know, condo owners know, resorts, if they want any type of sea turtle literature, anything like that, like Jen has out here, just please contact myself, Jen, Turtle Time. We want to hook you up with all the information you need. Turtle season officially starts May 1st, but we have had turtles on the island as early as mid-April, so.
Have we
start-
seen any yet?
Not yet, no, not any official, but I've seen them in the bay on my tours. They're popping their heads up already, so.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, just be aware, and I, like, at, Pink Shell, our turtle season is April 15th, just to get in the practice and, get on board with anything, so we're ready by the 1st. So
Okay.
we're right, and that's all.
Oh, boy. Ready? Okay, so I guess the first one would be that I do understand that we received a grant for 75 Royal Palms to go on Estero Boulevard. And my concern with those Royal Palms is that those fronds, those palm fronds can weigh up to 50 pounds. And some people on the east side of Estero Boulevard are concerned that those trees, if something were to happen, could fall onto their property. I also think that they would be too big and not really appropriate for Estero Boulevard. I would recommend maybe silver buttonwood woods, which are classified as bushes, but they can be trimmed as trees and more for shade trees and wouldn't be so intrusive to Estero Boulevard. Not only that, but also you know, would cost the town a lot of money to constantly have to, you know, go out and pick up these large fronds. So my question would be to Chad, is there somebody that is in charge of the grant that can go back and maybe see if we can change the Royal Palms to something that's more appropriate for Estero Boulevard?
I believe that would be a policy decision from town council. My current direction is Royal Palms.
So you don't know somebody who's in charge of asking for that grant that could go back and actually see if we could get something that's better than Royal Palms? 'Cause, I
So-
mean, those Royal Palms didn't even make it in Times Square. They had to be replanted. So I just don't see it as a good thing for Estero Boulevard. Royal Palms. Those are
So
very
with
big trees.
With regards to your question on who's in charge of the grant, I did the application for the grant and wrote it up, and then Jeff Hauge is our Public Works Director.
So are you willing to go back and see if we can change it from a Royal Palm to something that's more,
It's not a grant restriction per se.
Oh.
That's what was there before, and my understanding from the community is that's what is wanting to be replaced. If there are property owners along the North Estero Boulevard that are concerned about it, please have them come and talk to staff.
well, I'm concerned. I'm a taxpayer and I'm concerned for people, bicyclists and people that are actually walking on Estero Boulevard or riding their bikes, that they get hit by one of these fronds.
Okay.
Understood.
So, would you consider, you know, changing it from a Royal Palm to a shade tree?
Jennifer, that's not within our purview. Our purview is to advise the town council, you've made a statement. He's answered it. If property owners have an issue, they can go to staff and express their concern on it.
Okay. Let's see, the second thing would be, how is beach renourishment going? Where is the sand coming from? My understanding is that they've had issues bringing in the sand from the equipment out in the Gulf, and that we're actually trucking in sand, but I don't know where that sand is coming from.
So we have several mines that are approved on our permit, and it's being brought in from several of those mines.
Which mines?
Stewart Mine, Borehaven, I think Stewart Mine, Immokalee, Vulcan, and I think it's like, there's one that starts with a J. It's like
But
Hana
they're all
or John.
approved, they're all approved mines.
Yeah, they're all listed on the permit.
All right. Oh, okay. And then also we have an Easter egg hunt at Bay Oaks, Saturday morning. And Murph was asked to be there, so I will be setting up a table if that's all right with everyone. And I'll be in a sea turtle outfit, so.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hopefully it's not that hot. And then I have another event coming up with the Anchorage Committee, and that's April 27th. And Murph will also be there, along with many, many other nonprofit and organizations, local organizations. So I hope to see everyone there to support that. And that is it.
Just a couple of quick things. The Friends of Little Estero Island is in the process of replacing the critical wildlife information panels again because they got washed away during Milton. We also this time are donating the time and the materials, and we have some volunteers that are going to be constructing the framework and setting them into the sand. And one of them is done. The other one on the north end is not done. It'll be done Friday or Saturday. And we've taken care of the cost of that. We've covered the cost of it. The other thing is, and I know it's, I feel like I'm wearing the subject out. You know, here I am, I'm out there on the beach, and now I've got 15-foot tall Australian pines out on my beach. So I wanted to ask a question of the committee and Chad also. It seems that I'm gonna have to figure out a way to take this upon myself to get it taken care of. Chad, is there anything that would restrict me from taking like surveyor tape and tying surveyor tape on the trunks of the Australian pines up the beach? And then I reached out to Beach Talk Ed yesterday, and he hasn't replied. I don't know why yet, but anyway, maybe he's busy. But he has been pretty handy at putting volunteers together. You know, we could put some volunteers together for like on a Saturday, and then cut the trees down at the sand level, and make piles as we go or whatever. Public Works would have to after it's done, we would have to rely on Public Works to come out with their approved vehicles and load up all the Australian pines that have been cut down. But also, the root system, those will come back up unless they're killed. So, you know, I could go along behind them and drill a few holes in the stump that's left after they're cut, and put some Roundup on them. But then I was told that from someone that they thought that you had to be someone that has a license to use herbicides. Has to be someone that has a license to use them. So then that's fine. I'll figure out how to reach out to someone that has a license, that way that they're certified to be able to do that, and to keep them from coming back up yet again. I think it could be a relatively simple process and not take a lot of time, but I have to have permission or whatever in order to do these things.
So in the past, when we've done this, FWC has restricted us cutting them during bird nesting season. So that's gonna be the challenge right now. We can wait
Just
till.
in the critical wildlife area or entirely?
I would be most concerned about the critical wildlife area,
Okay.
and we would need
Which
FWC's
obviously
permission to,
Obviously, my shoreline is in the critical wildlife area.
yep, but,
So it would be something we gotta put off until September.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
well,
Okay.
that being said, then I'll attack it again, I'll bring it up and attack it again after September.
I still think we should do a Christmas tree sale.
Right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Leo?
I just had two things. Back when Captain Chris Whitman was here, he's talking about jetties, keeping the sand on their beach and stuff. I'd like to at least explore that of whether or not that can be done in the future. I don't know if you were at the meeting at all, Chad, but he talked about having jetties out in the water to keep, like down by Estero Beach and Tennis Club, you're putting sand on the beach there, but that point always gets eroded. And if there could be a jetty put out in that area, that could solve that erosion of the beach. Like where we're at Caper Beach, we get a lot of the sand coming from the north end, coming down and settling in and making our beach deeper. That happens all the way along the beach, and Chris mentioned that jetties would solve that problem, or at least prevent it from occurring rather rapidly, I guess. So that was one item. Okay, the second item was, in front of Caper Beach, it was brought to my attention that the dock, the old dock system that was there, we lost 2 poles in Ian that came popping out of the ground. One is, can they replace those? 2 is, the contractor pulled up all those posts and cut them off. and there's a concern about those popping up during the next storm again.
So, let me do the first one first. So the armament, the permitting is complicated, the costs are substantial, and the consequences are complex. And whenever you keep sand in one place, you're always robbing it from another. And I've talked to our coastal engineer about this several times whenever it's brought up. And it's just the permitting is difficult. And again, any kind of armament that you do, it significantly changes the way sand is transported across the beach. So there's a lot more scrutiny on it. But I'm happy to explore it. We do have a report from some years ago that did look at the basically a feasibility study or economical study on doing armament versus doing renourishment, and what it found was that doing renourishment, as we're doing right now, had the same benefits as doing armament, but at a fraction of the cost. So as expensive as doing this beach is, armament would cost significantly more.
Okay, one question I have. Are you aware that there is seawalls on the beach in a lot of different places that are actually buried underneath the sand?
We saw seawalls that we haven't seen for decades after Ian.
I just want to make sure, because I was told by people that have been on the island for quite some time that there's this extensive seawall that's buried underneath the beach in a lot of different areas.
Yep, and those, personally, I feel those retaining walls are very valuable for those properties to keep that sand in a catastrophic event like we had. So for your second one, we had discussions with your property on you wanted those pilings to stay. I wasn't aware of them cutting any. I did hear about that.
They
But
pull
we're-
them up about 2 feet and then cut them off.
Right, so, but so the choices were, we bury them and nobody was willing to bury them. Or we put the sand there and pull them up so that they're still exposed.
I apologize to interrupt. We actually got to get going.
Yep.
No disrespect, Mr. Chairman. Chad, I'm sorry.
No worries, y'all take care.
I think the question really is, are they gonna be able to put them back in, and I'm sure they're gonna ask at whose cost, because they will pop out on the next storm, so that's the problem, so.
All right,
I do have one more that I forgot. So Estero Beach, Estero Garden Club did print out this piece of paper that I handed all of you. I have handed out probably over 100 of these. They've been super helpful, especially after Ian, when people went to replant and they didn't plant things that survived Helene and Milton. It's a great list of trees and small trees, shrubs, palms, wildflowers, ground covers, cactus, succulents, grasses. And I was hoping that maybe we could get this list on our town website.
All right, yeah, I can discuss that with the town manager.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Is the town manager still, Andy? Is he
Yes.
still here? Okay.
Yes.
How long
Royal
is he
Palm
here?
survived here.
What's that?
Royal Palm survived here.
Look at that, they did, but they also lost a lot of the fronds, and it's a good thing people didn't get hurt from them. But hopefully the town, it doesn't become a waste of money putting in those 75 Royal Palms. And that's it, thank you.
okay, thank you. In the interest of time and the fact that if we lose one more member, we no longer have a quorum, I'm gonna pass off this. Staff update, Chad has done a wonderful job. If there's anything else you'd like to add?
So the 8,000 block, the bird nesting area has been posted. My understanding is Brianna, along with the help of Bill and William Perry, posted that area the other day. Bill brought out his tractor and was hauling equipment out there, so a big thanks to him. We are in bird nesting season, so please, no dogs in the CWA. If you do need to walk your dog, in that area. The runway or the berm that is on the landward side of the lagoon is the place to do that. And please make sure you keep them on the leash. We do have our first Wilson plover
Plover.
nest has eggs, so it's almost Easter, so to speak.
Where? Well, don't say where, but do you know where about in the critical
course.
wildlife?
Yes.
We're,
I guess we don't want to announce it.
No, we'd prefer not to put
Right.
it out over,
So it
It's
is
on the island.
it is
I
it
just
is
got
marked.
excited.
It is marked and posted. So if you frequent that area, I'm sure you'll.
okay, so they've already marked it off?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
okay.
Beach Renourishment Project, we did secure a mod to extend it till April 30th, and we will be done on the south end by April 30th, and along the central section by May 31st. We're working with Turtle Time to relocate nest, and we continue to monitor for shorebird nesting, daily in accordance with our permit, and plenty I could talk about, but we'll leave it there.
Okay,
Chairman,
right.
Chairman, you had asked me, I think at the last meeting, you had asked me for some type of a written report or
Yes.
something,
Yes.
along the lines of an article.
yes.
What am I supposed to do with that?
Send it to Chad.
Send it to Chad?
Yes, sir.
And Nicole. Or I can
And
give it to
Nicole.
Yep.
Nicole is our public information officer, so if you have it if you have it on your computer or your phone,
Oh, send it electronically?
yes, that's
Good
the
enough.
best. If you wanna give me a copy, I'd love to read it ahead of time, but it's okay.
Well, I made a copy for everyone. I didn't know what, I didn't know,
Okay,
I didn't know what was expected. So
okay.
I came
who's-
prepared.
Who's next on the article?
I am to do turtle time
Okay,
or turtle season.
yes, you are.
I will get that to Chad. I have family coming in, so I'll get it in the next week or two.
Very good. All right. Did you want a copy of that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And,
One more.
All right. Public comment. Anything?
Just one thing for Chad, the
Please,
renderings that you
please.
showed.
You got it for the record again.
Michael Thornton, 21541 Madeira Road. The renderings that you showed of the canal depth, are those available?
If they're not on the website, I'll make sure they are.
And which website?
It's on
Town.
the website.
Town website?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. And if you want to email me, my email is CHADD.
I think I've got it.
Okay, yeah, send me an email and I'll make sure we get you a copy as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Any more public comment? Seeing no more, public comment is closed. Okay, Murph Award. Any nominations? You had one in the bank?
I did. I can't remember now. There was the artist with the library, who did the wraparound, when you enter, which is Seascape, and she originally did it. So.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, who's that?
Okay. Motion made for the Murph Award to be the artist for the library? Okay. I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Would you write that up and send it?
Yeah, I have pictures and
Yep,
a whole
great.
interview from her.
Excellent. All right, agenda for next meeting. A couple of things taking from what Mr. Root said, and I think we ought to have a little bit of discussion as far as recommending to the town what, if we can get some kind of special permit, do not pass go, do not collect 200, that would enable someone to go on the beach and remove Hungarian pines in short order, not in turtle or bird season, but something that says, here's an invasive species permit that allows you to go on the beach. And I'd like to have some discussion on that on the MERF panel so that we can recommend something to the town.
What do you got against the Hungarian pine?
Well, whatever,
Australia?
Australian pines, sorry. Australian pines.
And I have nothing against Australia, so I
Yeah.
want to be clear on that. But I don't care for their trees.
But I think.
Well, they're invasive,
They're all over the island, quite a few on the beach, and I think if we had a special permit that'll let you go down and apply for it, to put a vehicle on the beach to remove them, cause you can pull them out if you have the right vehicle on the beach, like a tractor, so on and so forth, and get all the root balls and everything, especially after a rain, so there's a lot of, but, and I think that would help, but we can discuss it, that's just one of the things I wanna put on the agenda for next meeting.
When they're
Anybody
small,
got-
when they're small, you can actually just pull them right up
Yeah.
out of the sand.
I
Cause I've
know.
done it several times and just throw them down on the
So the
ground.
discussion next.
For discussion next time, I don't wanna get into it now.
Right.
Okay, anybody else have something? I would like to see a follow-up on the planting, just so we can go through and just,
On the next agenda?
yeah.
Yes, sir.
I would
Okay.
also like to keep on the agenda, just, updates on how the beach renourishment's going.
Absolutely.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Alright, with that,
Oh, and, sorry, I apologize, and an update on, how it's going with the dunes, the dune plantings.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
okay. Alright, I'll get that out. With that, we've reached the end, I will accept a motion to
You need to set your
adjourn.
next meeting date.
Oh, next meeting date, that's right. We have some conflicts going up, so I asked, Amy, what dates were available, and we have May first, May second, and May 9th. Sharon said Fridays are a bad day, which is May second and May 9th. So I would say that, I would prefer May first if we could do it. Which gives us a full 30 days, and then we can go into June. But, that's my recommendation. Does anyone have a problem with May first?
I'm fine with it.
I may be late, I have a meeting that morning.
I don't know yet, so
Okay,
just set it, so.
alright. So let's set it for May first. And I'll advise Amy, or Chad can. And, that will be our next meeting
I
date.
have a quick question. If you come in late, is that considered a
You get a double demerit.
crap?
It's only a problem if we don't have a quorum for the meeting. If we have a quorum and you come in late, you don't get double detention stars or something.
Okay.
It only is a factor. Okay, so, got that squared away. I will accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?